We're back with another video. This time we're going to be talking about some of the monsters that we want to come back for Rise. And with me today, I got my fellow Sapphire Stardust brethren with me, and I wanted to kind of introduce some of them to you. You guys know who I am. You know that I'm a member of the 3rd Fleet. I started with Monster Hunter Tri, and I got a very deep love for the series. But you don't know about my boys, so first off, I want to introduce you to my buddy Daimono.
Hey everyone, it's me, the cat, on the internet. And yeah, how you all going? First time on a Prince video. So yeah, I started with Monster Hunter Tri, and then went into Tri Ultimate. So probably about the same time frame Prince got into it. And yeah, shit, that game, first time round, bounced completely off it. And then too slow for me, too slow. And then I came back around with GU, and it was just like, shit, this game's amazing. I need it. Not GU, sorry. 3 Ultimate. And can't stop playing now. I've played so much Monster Hunter. Someone save me.
And then, of course, we got our boy from across the pond, Rikuziel.
Why, hello there. So yeah, let's see. Where did I begin? I'm a pretty damn old hunter myself. Been playing since the first game way back on the PS2. God damn, that game. 7 weapons only in the mix. Super clunky, super difficult, just tons of farming.
I could never imagine the original. Like
having to attack with the right analog stick. Those were the best times.
Oh shit, I didn't actually realize. So you had to attack fully with the right stick.
Yes, swinging, for instance, with a greatsword, swinging the right analog stick upward would allow you to do the overhead slam that you now know as the charge attack.
That means that Mono needs to play some original Monster Hunter.
Oh, it's on the list. Someday I will check out that game and be infuriated.
There was no such thing as charging your greatsword back then either.
Oh, he's going to be angry about that.
Yep. Yep.
It's just swinging. Wow.
You know how much you love to charge it.
Oh, sorry. From there, I moved on to Freedom Unite. Then from Freedom Unite onto... Oh, God, I've got to think. It would have been... Probably 3 Ultimate would have been the game after that, because I missed most of, like, Tri and everything, because I didn't have a Wii at the time. And then from 3 Ultimate, it was 4 Ultimate, Generations Ultimate, and then World. So
every single one?
Pretty much all of them, which is nice.
I like the one you
part of every generation.
We started with.
Was that?
Oh yeah.
I like the one that Riku skipped is the one we started with. So.
I know, right? That's true. The one he skipped was the one that we started with, but we're all kind of old hunters when it comes down to it, because the one thing about Monster Hunter, especially with World, was just how it opened up this series to a wider audience. And that's kind of why we're starting to do these videos, why we stream, why I stream, is because I'm so hyped that my favorite game franchise is as popular as it's become. So today, boys, we are going to talk about 3 things and 3 different monsters. So I want us to touch on a monster that we want to see back in Rise that fits the theme of what we're getting in Rise. The aesthetic, the types of monsters we've seen so far, on top of that, the locales that we've seen already. The next point I want to touch on is a monster that we want back regardless if it fits or not. And finally, a monster that we absolutely do not want back. You know, since I am the host of this, I'm going to refer to you guys to go first. So, Daimono, take it away.
You can't do that. You can't do this. But, I mean, mine's pretty, like, it's pretty obvious with me. Like, you knew what I'm going to start with. I've been preaching about this on stream, off stream, to all of you for so long. The one monster that kills me that never returned, the flagship monster for Tri, is still my favorite monster, and it's a very big fan favorite, which is the Gaiacris. And like Laggy, like, I don't know, it shocked me that we saw it in the original demo for World, and then they were like, nah, it doesn't work, completely doesn't work, we can't do it. And it's like, what are you talking about? We saw him in Generations, and he didn't have his water form. He just slithered around. We've got like snake-like creatures in World, and yet we didn't get him back. But whatever, that's fine. So he needs to return in a game that has shown us that we have the Leviathans back. He needs to be the one that returns. He has to. It's too important.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. Laggy is a fun monster. I still feel like he's nerfed because he can't go underwater, but...
Well, it makes it difficult to have his other forms back because, like, Ivory and Normal can fight pretty much the same, but I don't think Black Ivory, like, that's mostly underwater based. I think I know I've never actually fought him. I've only ever watched footage of him because I never got to.
You mean Abyssal, right?
Yeah, Abyssal. Sorry. Yeah. He's mostly water based, isn't he?
He is only underwater based. You fight him in the same area that you fight Cadus or Sadus, whatever you want to call it.
So it's like I don't think we'll see him ever come back because water's gone. But like,
are you sure now?
I mean, it's hard to imagine that water would ever come back in any form. But
I don't know. I think with new control schemes and stuff, I mean, back then you didn't really have like a second analog stick and whatnot. It made controls very clunky underwater. With the addition of, you know, more high-end consoles, you know, PlayStation, Xbox, that sort of thing, PC in particular, the ability to move around underwater would probably be quite easy nowadays. And would probably
but swinging still sucks. Like, there's a level of depth perception when you're underwater, like, especially when you're greatsword, and you're just like, oh! And you're like, oh shit, cool. Well, I'm now just gonna drift a mile away from the monster while swinging. So I don't know.
That's always a pain, isn't it? Right now, we refer to you, Riku, a monster that you want to see back that fits with Rise's aesthetic.
Ooh, I would have to say Yamasukami.
Oh, wow.
I would love to see giant, gassy sky octopus return, mainly because I think the mechanics would work really well in its favor.
I did not expect that from you.
Just hear me out a little. I love the idea of being able to stand on the back of things like Lao Shanlong, stand inside the giant mouth of the skull on the back of Shengal Ren, and you could jump onto the back of Yamasukami as well. With all the verticality that we've got in Rise, or at least what we've seen so far and played from the demo, I think that would be really cool to be able to just wire bug up onto his back and, you know,
his name also is Japanese as well, because it is still very a Japanese terminology.
Yamasukami.
Monster. So, yeah, that's actually interesting.
That's a very good pick too, and it's one that, honestly, like me and Daimono were saying, we did not expect to come up in this discussion.
Yep, that's why I was saying I don't think I could get any footage of it now, because obviously
I can easily find some Yama footage. It shouldn't be too hard to find it.
He was only a G rank in Monster Hunter 2, wasn't he? It wasn't like...
Yeah, it was,
Yeah, I could easily find videos of that, but man, that's a monster I've never fought against. I only know about it through, talking to other Monster Hunter vets and people that have played the games before me, so I kind of agree that might be fun to take on a monster like that. How would you see it, though? I mean, would you see it as more like a siege?
Oh, I don't know. It depends on whether they stick with the idea of sieges as they are now, in terms of the world time to siege. Because sieges in the older games, I feel, worked so much better because at least the fight was like on the rails, kind of like Kulve Tower Siege is something I'm totally fine with because it's constantly on the move. I had a big problem with Sapphire, mainly because Sapphire feels super static and just doesn't go anywhere. So Yamasukami is kind of the same though. Yama was pretty static back in Freedom Unite, I'm not going to lie. You fought him on the inside of one of the ancient towers. And it was like hollowed out in the middle. But yeah, you fought him at the top, and if you threw like tranq bombs at him, you could cause his gas to deflate in his stomach, and he'd drop down to the bottom of the tower, and you can jump onto his back and carve special items off of him, and so on and so forth.
Well, he worked really well now, because is he like mossy? I can't, like, I've always looked at him and he looks kind of mossy like, so it's like if they had the climbing mechanic, it is literally we could climb up the shell of him like a wall. So
yeah, that would be cool. That would be awesome.
Very dope, very dope. I like it. I like the idea of it. So I guess we're going to me of a monster that I want to see back that fits in Rise. It's one that everybody already thinks is going to be coming back because we saw its younger form in the recent IGN playthrough video, but one of my favorite monsters is the puffy shark himself, Zamtrios. We're getting that icy arena, that icy area, that locale that fits Zamtrios, and as a side note, it's kind of not Monster Hunter related when I bring this up, but do you guys remember Street Sharks?
Yeah.
Can't say I know that one, not gonna lie.
So back when I was a kid, because the Ninja Turtles were really big back then, right? And some other toy company, I can't remember who made Street Sharks, wanted to get their toy out. So they made these anthropomorphic sharks that were like, you know, crime fighters and, you know, it's basically Ninja Turtles for sharks, right? And I got a fucking hammerhead on my arm. So I love sharks. Sharks are... I always grew up loving sharks.
Prince Lord. Sharks.
Prince Lord.
And now you know what to send him, guys. We know, send him just shark plushies.
Just send me like shark plushies all the time. So I've always loved sharks. So when I first saw Zamtrios, I fell in love with that monster. Aside from the fact that it has a very interesting mechanic, I like how it goes from that very nimble state when it's, you know, on four legs into that puffy ball, and he just bounces around and rolls on you. I was hoping he would have come back in World because we kind of got that with Great Jagras with the puffy Jagras thing, and you know, rolling around on you. And I was like, man, we can get Zamtrios back, but we never did. I like the monster a lot. I love the armor. I love the aesthetic of it, and it's a fucking shark, guys.
Yeah,
well, we haven't
pretty
seen the
much
amphibian, so.
Mm-hmm. So we're finally getting the amphibians back too. I think we're getting. Wait, no, we haven't gotten any amphibians.
Surely we must. No, because the thing is that we've seen both that small Zemetrios, which I don't know if it's got a different name, and we've seen small version of Tetsukabra in the lobby, which suggests to me that they have to be coming back. Like, it'd be so strange to have these
the
other
Tranodon looks very much based off of the amphibian model.
Oh yeah, we do have an amphibian with the Tranodon, huh?
Yeah.
Is he actually one?
I think he's amphibian, yeah, because he doesn't move like the the fanged, like he doesn't move like Jagras or anything.
He does seem to have a unique movement pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this game definitely feels like it has the potential for being an insane roster, because they've already shown off so many skeletons already that and they don't have to go to such a high visual fidelity that they do with World, that we might just see so many returners, and this could be one of the largest cast of monsters we've had in Monster Hunter. Yeah,
I was actually, remember I mentioned that before at the beginning. I was like, this could be the largest Monster Hunter cast that we've got ever.
Yeah, it definitely has the potential to be the largest monster roster, just based off of the skeletons that we've seen so far.
Pretty exciting if that's the case, because that would, and it plays into the Rampage mechanics really well as well, because then you get a large variety of monsters where it's just sort of like you can have just massive mishmash of monsters, which I assume there's no internal turf wars during the Rampages though. Like, you can't just, they won't just turn upon each other and stuff like that. Like,
yeah, it doesn't look like that at all. It looks like they're united.
Yeah,
almost like a hive mind.
It's going to be like old Monster Hunter, where
the lore in that. Why are they doing that? But
we'll find the lore out soon when it comes to it. But
yeah, no spoilers on that. I think they're going to save that for the game.
I'm sure they are going to save that for the game. So with that, I mean, we did kind of talk about these monsters that we want to come back that fit into it, and you know, all three of our choices do fit really well into it. So the next bit that I wanted to discuss is we all have a favorite, a favorite that we don't give a damn if it fits or not, just we want it back. So with this one, we're gonna go a bit backwards this time because I like to throw y'all curveballs. Let's start with Rikuziel, a monster that might not exactly fit in Rise, that you want back regardless. Doesn't matter if it fits the aesthetic.
That's a tough one, because if we're going off absolute favorites, my favorite's already in. that would be Mizutsune, and we've already fought that.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let me scrape the old memory banks and see what I can remember from way back when. I kind of wouldn't mind seeing something like Hypnocatrice make a return.
Ooh, I don't even know which one that is. That's a
So
Unite one.
Hypnocatrice was also a Freedom Unite thing, but it came from originally Frontier. And I believe the Frontier community threw a bit of a hissy fit when it came over to the West on Freedom Unite. They weren't happy with the fact that their unique monsters were being shared with other people or something along those lines. I think Yamasukami was also originally a Frontier monster.
Well, that's the curious thing. Like, we really haven't had too many Freedom Unite monsters or any of the either or ones come over to the mainline series, have we? Like,
Lavasio.
Yeah, there are. Lavasio. Oh, that's the one. Lavasio. It wasn't Yama. You're right. It was.
Lavasio was Freedom Unite, or Lavasio, I think, was a Frontier monster that came.
He's pretty simple.
Frontier monster.
But it made the jump to the I guess quote unquote mainline games. I think with Gen first, and then World.
No, Freedom Unite first.
Well, was it Freedom Unite first? Shit, I did not realize that.
Yeah, Lavasio and Hypnocatrice were both part of Freedom Unite.
I never played Freedom Unite.
Yeah, that's a special game to me. It's by far one of the hardest Monster Hunter games. Or at least it was for me, because I had to solo everything, because I didn't have anyone nearby alongside at the time. So
it's a different beast when you're not doing it all online. Like, doing solo the lobby hunts is just, it's a chore.
They're
really hard.
The Hypnocatrice always reminded me of like a demonic Jan Garuga in a way, from what I've seen of the videos of it.
Yeah, kind of. It's a little closer to what Akhenaton looks like in Rise. But it's basically a Kutru with a slender, longer beak that can shoot sleep powder out of its mouth and stuff, so it's interesting.
I mean, it's very possible that it could be here, but, you know, that's a good fan favorite pick. It's one that, once again, throwing us for a curveball, it's one that I wouldn't guess. That's Riku. Riku is our pitcher for this one. Throwing the curveballs.
That's Riku's place in this. He's like, I've got so much Monster Hunter knowledge. I'm just hit you with it hard.
I'm just gonna hit you with the hardest.
Just come for being an old man.
And then me and Daimono here are again like looking up, like, we're from the 3rd Fleet. Hello, sir. How are you?
And yeah, in World we're
in World we're the old hunter, but then we're basically the the millennial to the boomer. So like what? Riku's our Monster Hunter boomer.
Yep.
I always think about how it must be the strangest thing to be a fan of like series like this and like Pokemon and all those other ones, where it's like the idea that if a young kid jumps into it, it's like they have such a wealth of choice in terms of like favorites or ones they can get in the games and things like that, or be fans of, and then it's like they look back at the old people and it's just like, man, must have sucked back then. You only had like what, 5 monsters? Jeez.
Jeez, you only had 150 Pokemon back in the day? Oh my god.
Oh man.
That was like what, 29,000 or some shit?
Oh man. Yeah, there's I think there's 900, almost 1,000 now.
Oh damn, I did not realize it's that much.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So now we push off to Daimono. Daimono, same thing to you, category with the monster that you want back, that regardless if it fits or not.
Well, I actually, strangely enough, 4 is not my favorite of the Monster Hunter series, but it had some really amazing designs. Like some of the strongest designs that I think have ever come out of the team. Definitely the 4th generation had some really, really good ones. And I honestly, Najarala is very, very up there. I honestly think that monster is just one of the funnest to fight. Visually, it's just so striking. He is big, but he's not like abusive for his size. Like and he has quite an array of techniques that I think are just, they make sense to the monster. I think just as a monster design, he's just a really strong design. And the fact that we've seen a couple of monsters in Rise sort of almost act similarly to how they function, how Najarala functions, it is a high chance that he could actually make a return, but like he's still a lot of effort because he's unique in terms of his attacks. Like they have to put in effort to make that monster, and I think because of his size, I mean, Rise is a bit different to say World or even some of the older games where the arenas are actually quite large. Like if you've played the demo, you guys know that like multiple areas, multiple segments of that first map we've seen are huge. They're just absolutely massive. So it makes sense the Leviathans come back, and by extension, he is sort of a Leviathan thing. I don't really.
They are classed under a different model. You can check it on Generations Ultimate. But they have a model that they have shown off already that follows the same suit, and that would be Somnicanth.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
I thought Somnicanth was the same as the Mizu Leviathan model.
No. It's a different model. If you go back to the trailers and rewatch them, you'll notice he's far more slender, and the way it moves it seems to stand more upright, so to speak, with its tail holding it up.
Kind of like Najarala.
Yeah, a little like Najarala and the snake-like Withens.
Because it's like
there was that new mud one that they showed off that is more Mizutsune than...
Yeah, that's definitely Mizutsune. Mudzutsune as
yes.
That's
what Lolly called it. Yeah, Lolly came into my chat and was like...
Boop the snoot. So absolutely, that's a great idea. I agree with you that Najarala needs to come back.
Oh yeah. I love the idea of it throwing plates and then using high-pitched screams to detonate them. That's super cool, super clever.
I honestly, 4 had some really, really good designs in terms of like the monster. Like we talked about it with the other day when we were doing a hunt was Basiroth and like Gravios and things like that. Where I have issues with some of the earlier generation ones where they just have abilities. Like for some reason, Basiroth can do poison, fire. And sleep, and it's like, I get he's a stored gas monster in a sense, and he's a big old rock thing. But like to me, it just throws out abilities that are not sensical. Versus like something like Najarala, his attacks are specific to him. Like other monsters don't really do those attacks. You might have like similarities with like Nagakuga and stuff throwing out, or sonic attacks and things, or a dig attack, but they work for that monster. It doesn't feel like you are like, oh yeah, I don't really know how this works, but okay. But yeah, I think he's an underrated monster that I would really, really like to see to come back.
Oh yeah, 100%. I agree.
I've always wondered why he's not more of a fan favorite, because I've always loved Najarala and the armor, the weapons, the way that you say his name. It's just fun. It's like Najarala.
Again, if they're going to continue down the path of having a lot of Japanese-sounding names, like he kind of fits in there as well. Like,
absolutely, I agree. So mine is a bit more of a newer one. My favorite monster to hunt in World, the one that I always enjoyed hunting, was Nergigante. And the one thing I loved about Nergigante was, ever since base game, I always maintain that Nergigante is both the easiest and the hardest elder to take on.
I kind of agree with you,
depending on how you took it on. And it was even ramped up more with Iceborne and the new AI they gave Ruin and Nergigante. With base game Nerg, if you neglected breaking the parts, and it would do that immense dive bomb that was always a pain in the ass to deal with. That's massive damage. That's one hit damage that you're taking in base game armor. With Ruin and Nergigante, he gets so unpredictable near the end of its life that you can just get comboed left and right almost unfairly. But he's such a fun monster to hunt, and especially if you're as I like to call it, longsword aficionado, such as myself in Rikuziel. It's our nice way to say that we're weebs that watch anime and ooh all the time. We do enjoy hunting a monster like Nergigante because there's so many options and so many ways to counterplay it. I honestly don't think he's gonna come to Rise. I have no expectation that there's gonna be some weird story beat that some underlying elder is gonna come out and be the one that's causing the rampage, and it's like controlling the Magnamalos and shit, and then Nergigante swoops in and eats his head. I have
that was a weird scene in Iceborne.
I have no expectation or illusion that that's gonna happen, but if they gave us back the Spiky Boy, I would not be let down.
Yeah,
I would be excited, but if they don't bring him back, I'm not going to be like, trash game. This game sucks. I can always just jump back into the world if I want to bully the Spiky Boy. But absolutely, I know he doesn't fit into Rise. It just doesn't fit the aesthetic, because it fit the aesthetic of the new world.
Yeah. Well, he's the poster boy for World as well. Like,
yep.
I think he's the only elder that we've ever had that is the poster boy for an area as well. And they've tried to make a real distinction between the old world and the new world. And as much as we've explored that entire continent, the base area that the old continent is so huge that, like, I don't think they're going to be like, oh yeah, we really need to bring back Nergigante anytime soon. I think there's such a wealth of monsters that they would try and pick before him, even though he is.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if he resonated with the fan base as much as, say, some of the other ones that were even in that game. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he did either. I think it came to the point that we just bullied him for fun. But
yeah, it really did.
Because, like when you first fight Nergigante, it's like, you face that dive bomb and you just deal with the moment of just, omae wa mo shindeiru.
Yeah, that hitbox and that dive still sucks.
So that hitbox is actually really interesting because it extends slightly out behind him while he's airborne.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
bizarre.
So you can't really foresight that because you're still being hit by stuff.
You can foresight it if you're in front of it, but if you try to go underneath him beforehand, I'm pretty sure you get caught by some sketchy hitbox as he lands.
Yeah.
So,
but near the end of it, and we've all been in Endgame, it came to the point that we just go right there, and he's gone from becoming the monster that was, pure omae wa mo shindeiru energy to the life alert monster because he's fallen and he can't get up.
Jumping it. Like, doing that one mission over and over and over just for GSVs, like everyone who has ever done Endgame Iceborne, and they know that that's one of the best ways to get them, really, you will be doing that quest a lot. So you realize just how easy it is to abuse Nergigante. Like, even if you didn't know how to do that before, by the fact that you have to grind that mission, unfortunately, he becomes a big pincushion. They just take the town.
Most of us probably remember our first Nergigante or Ruin and Nergikill, and it probably took most of us around 15 odd minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
20 minutes or so.
Yep.
And nowadays we're sitting there doing, 1v1s versus the old Ruin and Nergi and doing it in under 5.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It does really show just how easy he's become over time once you've learned his kit. But on the subject of Nergigante, there's no way to really dismiss the fact that he could show up suddenly in the new world due to the way he reproduces.
Exactly. Yeah, Elder Dragons go where they want. They do. They control the world, so...
And they have kind of talked about how Nergigante is kind of a nomad when it comes to the old world stuff, that it was drawn to in the new world stuff, like it was drawn to the new world because of Zora Magdaro. So while it would be surprising to see him, in the vicinity of Kamura Village and, have everyone deal with that Spiky Boy again, I'm not going to hold my breath because
they can bring in some sort of mini storyline and say, oh god, a Nergigante has made an appearance.
I mean, they brought us back to the old world with Fatalis. Like, they could just do the same with Nerg. We're going to go back to the new world for some reason.
Yep, it could be like the I don't know, like an Endgame title update. But so with all this love that we've been showing so much love to the monsters that we would love to see, obviously, we know just how much Daimono loves Lagiacrus. Riku with the beautiful curveballs that we just love to see and talk about. Now, boys, let's talk about the monsters that we do not want back. Absolutely. And I'll start on this one because fuck you, Nibblesnarf, you stupid clownfish. I never wanted. No, I'm kidding. Aside from the fact that I hate Nibblesnarf with a passion.
Walking target.
The one monster that I would not like to see back that I never had a good time hunting, even across old games and new games, is Uragon. That Thanos-looking brute wyvern. I felt like that world was so full of brute wyverns that they were like, let's just throw this guy in here. And like, I don't even want to call him a real monster because, you know, a monster is vulnerable when you hit its head, and when you hit his head, it's not. So he's not a monster. He's just an abomination.
Well, it's funny because I feel like he became this... World, I think he is so much easier than his old incarnations because you can break parts on him easy, you fall down way easier. But like in like Iceborne, his master rank, I keep going to say G rank still, that version of him is really fucking annoying when you've got another monster there. He'll just, because he goes into flame spin mode and he just takes off a million miles per hour and just goes bop and just he could be very annoying sometimes.
Aside from the fact, too, if you get caught in the middle of his flame spin, and while I thought that was kind of a fun mechanic, when you're caught in the middle of his flame spin, if you don't have cool drink, you're gonna burn. And that's annoying. So I absolutely do not want Uragon back. I can't think of anyone that has that as a fan favorite monster.
As a juxtapose, we're going to go back. I actually want to retroactively change my which monster I want back to Uragon. Can we have Uragon back, please?
No. We are not going to do that. Capcom, do not listen to this cat. He's a he hasn't had his milk yet. He's super ornery. He hasn't had his milk yet. He doesn't know what's going on. Do not listen to the cat. And with this, we'll divert to Daimono. Daimono, what's the monster that you absolutely do not want back?
Man, there's only one choice. Man, and the fact that he's already in there rubs me the wrong way so much. I cannot believe they made him return, and I'm so frustrated. Fuck me. Like, Kezu. Like, they should not have brought back Kezu.
I don't see your issue with Kezu. He has the best soundtrack, 100%.
He does. He has.
Combat music is the best combat music ever, and if they change it, I'm going to be really upset.
Dude, I will be so mad if they change his theme music because Kezu has the greatest theme music in all Monster Hunter. You know this, Riku.
Oh yes.
You just have to be refined enough to hear it.
So many things that are not great about this monster, and it feels like he's out there. And this is why, because I'm fairly sure, like, he's a favorite internal dev one as well. And I think they probably would have wanted to put him in World if they could have. But the fact that he just is a monster that is designed to rub you the wrong way. There's not many scary, creepy monsters that are I feel uncomfortable fighting this thing, but every element of Kezu is just, this is not a fun time. This is not nice.
Yeah. Oh, I love Kezu for that though.
I love Kezu though too. I just want to wyvern ride it, and
I have one gripe with Kezu, and that is how slowly he flies, and that's it. Everything else about him I love so much. But him transitioning in the old games from one zone to another would just take far too long.
Well, he has one of my most hated mechanics in Monster Hunter. And really, it came about in Tri, I'm fairly sure, was the idea of roof monsters. Like, the idea that monsters would attach themselves to the roof and then just do stuff. So, as a Great Sword or really only player, that is not a fun time. Waiting for a monster to come down, I don't particularly like that. Like, some of them you
with
could,
the wire bug, though, Daimono.
Yes.
Yeah, but if you said clutch claw where you clutch directly onto the monster, we can't run on the roof as far as we know. So it's like, if he's just directly in the center of a roof area, I don't know if wall running jumping is necessarily going to get us there. Like, I think it's got to be one of those things we're waiting for that boy to come down.
They probably will allow us to not run across the ceilings, but we'll definitely have things like stalagmites and such that we can hang on to, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. Well, we might say the weird hanging on to things mechanic come back.
They had them in GU, so it only makes sense that they bring things like that back to attack monsters.
Would make sense. So do you have a serious one, Daimono, or you just really, really hate him?
I really, really hate him.
Man, I can't wait.
Giganox and Kazu, like I've had nightmare times with them sometimes. It's just like,
Oh, I can't wait to watch you hunt those things.
oh god.
Can you imagine if Giganox comes back? I don't like Giganox at all, but I want Giganox to come back solely for the fact that I want you to be creeped out.
Giganox might be worse than Kazu, to be honest, especially red Giganox. Like those monsters. Yeah, they're not.
Red
not,
Kazu and Baleful Giganox are the variants.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Imagine if there was like a hunt where you got to hunt both of them at once, and they called it redefining the power couple again. So that's fair.
Sure one fits the other, right? Like
one does fit into the other. I mean, that's the design of it. I hate this. I hate this conversation now so far.
Oh no,
we've gone over the edge.
That's not a good thought at all.
It just dawned on Riku. Is like, wait, one goes into. Oh no.
Yeah, now I'm uncomfortable.
Yes.
Oh,
no one wants them back.
You have made your point, Daimono, that you wanted to extend the uncomfortable feelings, the creepy gooiness that comes with hunting Kazu to us, to Kazu aficionados that love that theme music for the beauty of what it is. So with that, we turn to Riku. Riku, absolutely a monster you do not want back.
I can't really think of anything that I don't really want back. But if I were to make
that's Riku's big heart right there. He doesn't want anyone not to return. He loves everyone.
It just, they can all be so different. That's the thing. Agnactor would probably end up being the choice.
Oh, yeah,
I agree.
That's the first
I love Agnactor for his unique mechanics of being able to, in GU in particular, not only dig under the floor, but then transition from the floor and through the ceiling above.
I wouldn't be surprised if he is returning, to be honest, because of the fact that we've seen the volcano area and it has the top and down, and we're getting Kazu back. So
yeah, it makes a lot of sense. He also has some incredible weapons and armor, but the main reason I don't want him back is because he had that stupid gimmick where the lava or magma on his chest and various other body parts would harden, and you just couldn't get through it regardless of your sharpness unless you had Mind's Eye, or were using a gun. That kind of transitioned on the Lavasioth in World, which kind of annoyed me and aggravated me, but it was a nice way to bring Lavasioth back, I think, even though nobody likes Lavasioth.
Well, that there was a tempered version of Lavasioth in World, and it was a decoration grinding quest.
High rank.
That was a nightmare. The scaling on that monster is ludicrous, and if you were a melee running weapon and you didn't necessarily have an elemental build, it took an eternity. That was not a fun fight. So it just ended up being an inefficient way to actually get decorations. But yeah.
I agree. Yeah, Agnator was
far better for the deco farm on that one.
So I mean, why am I spacing on the ice one?
Glacial Agnactor.
Yeah. So it's very possible you could get both.
Yes, quite possible, since we've seen the snowy area
and the volcanic area right away off the bat. But that is a good pick.
You know I'm reaching when the only real gripe I have with it is that stupid gimmick that we've already seen in the wild. So,
it's a pretty bad mechanic, though.
It is a bad mechanic. It's an annoying mechanic because, well, at least Lavasioth had a mechanic to combat that. That's why they had the slinger pods. You'd shoot it with the fire pods to soften it, or you can run a fire weapon to soften it. You can't do that with Agnator. You can't bring a fire weapon in there, if I remember correctly, and soften that hide.
You can take a fire weapon, but obviously that's the only way to go, and obviously it's highly resistant to fire, so fire does no damage. So you're basically taking in what is a raw weapon, just to soften up his hide, and then you can't break
so fast too. I think he wouldn't be such a bad fight if they made it so he didn't cool down so quickly. Like he pretty much jumps out. He's heated for maybe 5 to 10 seconds, and then he's cooled off, and then you have to wait for him to go back under again because you can't ignite him easily enough unless you brought someone with fire element to just make the fight go faster. But it's not a monster you necessarily needed to grind a lot of, so it was sort of like a you came past him and you did him and you just kept moving. But unless you wanted the weapons, which were very good, like they were an interesting playstyle. So it's like because I would actually say that's one of World's weak points, is the deviancy of how weapons played out to sets didn't necessarily work very well. Like they leaned heavily into, like, especially in Iceborne, was like, oh yeah, you need to play elemental style. But we didn't see so much of the, hey, actually one of the best ways to play is very bad sharpness, extremely high raw, and trying to fiddle around how to make that work with, like, say Mind's Eye or something like that. But I'm fairly sure it's Agnector's ones that are like that, or is it another monster's? I'm fairly sure it was him. But that really was an interesting playstyle, because it was actually one of the best greatswords in I think 4 and in G that you could play with, just because of those stats. But yeah.
Interesting. So I want to throw a curveball at the end of this, because now we're coming near the end of our discussion. I don't know. I know Daimono saw the video, and I know Riku hasn't. Eric's recently had an interview with the Monster Hunter team, and one thing that was brought up was that relic weapons will not be coming back.
Yes. Yeah. Or at least in the base version of the game.
Yeah. So there won't be like a relic weapon type hunt. Like even in base world, we had the relic weapons with Kolv, which ended up becoming, the end game one. I feel like this could give us a chance to once again have more variation in our builds, more variation in the weapon choices that we run.
Yeah, I would love to see the weapon upgrade system revert back to that of the GU weapon system.
Yeah,
I love that nearly any weapon in that game is viable if you just upgrade it far enough without changing its form or anything. Like the basic stone blade that you get at the start. If you just level it up and then don't ever pick one of the other options to change it into another form, it will eventually have like 300 on attack power, semi-decent blue to white sharpness, with 0% affinity in a couple of slots. And it's like, that's more than viable to take into an endgame G-rank hunt, even G4, maybe even Deviant/EX Deviant, and have very little issue with it. My longsword build on GU right now is running the meta set in terms of armor, the old Joe Cena setup, but I'm using just the Dark Scythe, which is a rarity 1 longsword, but it has 370 attack power, purple sharpness with handicraft 2.
Yep, you've been able to upgrade it so much.
And 10% affinity, and it's just like, well, that minus 10% doesn't affect me in any way, shape, or form.
No.
Yet, this weapon is just as good as, let's say, the Deviant longsword from the Senator, which only has the added bonus of charging your Hunter Arts quicker. So
GU is like such an interesting game to me. I still, honestly, if you are a Monster Hunter fan and you have not played Generations Ultimate or Double Cross, you really should, because they are the most expressive of making play style in Monster Hunter ever. And I do not think that we'll ever actually reach a point where that returns, because it really was a Monster Hunter for Monster Hunter fans, I always feel. And it's nice to have something that came out and that exists now. They're never going to be able to take that away. And it is the last of the old school Monster Hunter stylings. So, like, if you are a world player, please go and check that out. If you are getting a Switch to play Rise, Generations will always exist on the Switch now. So, like, if you want to experience a whole heap of old monsters, even if they don't return, ones that we've talked about today, they may not return. They are likely in Generations, minus some of the Riku ones.
Yeah, minus the Riku ones.
But there is a lot of stuff in there where it's like, you can see what we're talking about in terms of comparing against playstyles or armor, or the monster itself having such a unique combat design that they exist forever in those older games now. And I think I probably wouldn't return back further than 4. I think 4 is still where it's like I draw the line. It's like, I'm not sure if I'd go back further than that for just playing through an entire Monster Hunter game. But that snapshot period of Monster Hunter is definitely one where it's has such a wealth of monsters that even if Rise's collection of monsters isn't as big as, say, some of those other games, like, you can always go back to them, and I think it's just a fun thing to have. That's why this series is so amazing. Like, it's just, you can always go back to those games and it still feels like Monster Hunter. You still feel like you're playing the same franchise.
Aside from jumping back to the first one, you have to use the right analog stick.
Yeah. Going back that far might be a bit much.
Funky Japanese controls way back in the day. And it was just like, you know what? I still love that game. I still love that game even now. So if I had the PlayStation 2 and the game available, I would happily play through again.
Absolutely. I'd love to see that on stream. I'd love to see both of you guys run through the very first Monster Hunter on stream just for shits and gigs.
Is there a way for us to have... Oh man, we should look into that. Is there a way for us to have retro multiplayer? I actually think I know a way to do it. But that would be really fun to experience the older game and do it with the multiplayer lobbies. And just
I feel like it has to do with hosting your own server, but I don't know if that's...
Oh, really? Oh, okay. So it's not as simple as I thought. But I might look into that. That might be something we see down the line on stream chat.
If you look into that, that'd be great.
Absolutely. So with that, I think we've kind of hit a good point to end our discussion for the day. I want to give my boys a chance to give a little bit of an outro to themselves, and of course, drop your links. Let the people down the Lifted Prince channel know about who you are, and we'll go. Let's start with Daimono.
Well,
oh god.
I don't really have too much other than my Twitch at the moment, but I am over on twitch.tv/Daimono. I stream pretty much 4 days at the moment, maybe 5 days regularly, weekly, and a lot of various things. As much as I am a palico that plays a lot of Monster Hunter, and I love the shit out of this franchise, you might catch me playing just anything and everything. I play a lot of different games. Action games on the most part. So yeah, come on, drop by, say hi. If you can't catch me live, I am also over on YouTube under Daimonolog, and mostly just stream archives. But yeah, it's pretty much the same content. Either way, you're getting the same content. You can't avoid it.
And Riku?
So yeah, this has been an absolute pleasure, to be fair. I haven't ever done anything like this before, so this is different for me. But yeah, I also am on Twitch for the most part. I do have a YouTube, I don't really use it. But yeah, twitch.tv/Rikuziel. Find me over there. Especially if you're interested in Monster Hunter, I have all of the answers. Maybe not the numbers in particular, but I definitely have the answers for any questions that you have about franchises.
And Riku's always live. This man is always live. If you jump onto Twitch, I bet he was streaming right now. Even while we're recording,
this, I bet he's streaming right now.
Just casually streaming in the background. I'm not actually, for once. But yeah, anywhere between 10 to 14 hours a day, I just sit here and grind.
Absolute mad lad.
Yes. Obviously, with the UK being in lockdown currently, that's basically what it is. Once I end up going back to work again, it'll be like, 6 to 8 hour streams after work, and then on a day off 10 to 14 again. But yeah, I mean, that's effectively me. Really, that's everything.
And that's been us. We are three of the elders. We are the elder dragons of Team Sapphire Stardust. Thank you guys very much for coming by. I really appreciate you both for joining me here today. I'm glad I was able to put this together because, amongst our crew, we three are most likely the three most experienced monster hunters amongst us. And, with our powers combined, we have a wealth of knowledge whenever we talk to people about Monster Hunter and bring people to our side of the darkness, our side of the grind, because we all know that it's a crippling grind sometimes with Monster Hunter. And it's sometimes RNG's just not kind to us. Sometimes you just want to throw your controller, but God, I love this damn game.
Yep, it's the franchise that it's hard to look at the gaming sphere now without having a game like this, and they're the only one that does it this well. Like it really is some of the best gameplay you can have. They just knock it out of the park every single time. Rise is going to be amazing.
It's very rewarding as well. just because Monster Hunter is probably one of the few games that is left out there that actually requires a level of knowledge and skill to get through the hunts. So you don't see games with that very often. Most of them will be very hand-holdy and tutorialize things like over the top.
Oh, cut to 20 years or 10 years from now, Riku, and we're just full on tutorial mode Monster Hunter.
God!
Held along the way. Oh, you've got an NPC to hear. It does more damage than you. Oh, don't need to make weapons. They give you the weapon.
Don't get me wrong. World does have quite a few tutorials in it. When Iceborne dropped, they actually made a 1-star low rank quest just to teach you how to use the clutch claw.
Yeah, they're figuring it out.
I still would hate it if they go full tutorial mode, because the tutorial mode is the story. That's the point of Monster Hunter. Once you're done with the story, you get the end credits. You're done with the tutorial. You're done with that 200-hour tutorial. But really, guys, this was fantastic. I will see you guys on stream later. Thank you guys for tuning in. I have been Prince. We've had Daimono and Riku here. You guys stay frosty and get lifted. Goodbye now.
Bye.
Ciao for now.